السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, let's continue with our Ramadan series, Living with Prophet Yusuf. We left off in the last lesson. We left off in the last class at lesson number 31. And lesson number 31 was be persistent in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just as those who are disobedient to Allah are persistent in their disobedience. We should exercise the same level of persistency in trying to obey Allah as those who are persistent in disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should actually exercise even more persistence. We should be even more persistent than they are in their obedience to their desires and their obedience to shaitan. And we got that lesson from the fact that that was lesson number 31. We got that from the fact that the wife of the Aziz, Zulaykha, that she was hell-bent on sleeping with Yusuf and having her way with him, right? Lesson number 32 was beauty is only skin deep, meaning never get lost in the physical beauty of a thing that the physical beauty of someone, and forget all about the moral beauty or the spiritual beauty. And that was spelled out by the wife of the Aziz when she said to the women, لَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَاسْتَعْصَمْ, that I desired him against his own will, and he sought refuge in Allah. And that is what is called in Arabic al-i'tisam. Al-i'tisam bil-kitab wa sunnah. In today's time, we have i'tisam bil-kitab wa sunnah, a steadfastness, holding fast or seeking refuge with the Quran and the Sunnah, in the Quran and the Sunnah. And Yusuf alayhi salam, she spelled it out. She said, I desired him against his own will, but he in turn sought refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She spelled out very clearly the beauty of his character, but they were so entranced, enthralled, inundated with the beauty of his physical that went right over their heads. It went completely over their heads. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want you to turn to Surah number 22, Surah Hajj, Surah 22, Ayah 78. And listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah. Surah number 22, Ayah 78. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, establish the salat, وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ, and pay the zakat, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِاللَّهِ, and seek refuge or hold fast to Allah. Hold fast to Allah. Huwa mawlakum, he is your guardian. فَنِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ, and he is the best of guardians and the best of helpers. And we also pointed to the fact that this was good character, that this was part of his character, that he maintained, that maintaining good character even under this level of pressure, all right, that even under these circumstances, he still maintained his chastity. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, I want to lead with this comment by Ibn al-Qayyim. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said something very profound. He said, ad-din kulluhu khuluq, that the religion of Islam all of the religion of Islam is centered around good character. The whole of the religion of Islam is centered around good character. Ad-din kulluhu khuluq, that our religion, all of it, is based upon or centered around good character. He said, فَمَنْ فَاقَكَ فِي خُلُقٍ فَاقَكَ فِي الدِّينِ, and whoever supersedes you, whoever outshines you in character, then he also outshines you in deen, because deen is character. Deen is character, meaning the whole of our religion is centered around good character. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا أُتِيتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have only been sent with the mission of perfecting moral character. I wrote an entire book about that particular subject with that particular title. إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have only been sent to perfect moral character. And the way that the Prophet ﷺ phrased that statement, it was as if he had no other mission other than to perfect moral character. The way that he phrased the statement, it was almost as if he had no other mission as a prophet, as a messenger, except to perfect moral character. All right? And so character plays a big part in our religion. All right? It plays a big part in our deen. All right? So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala is saying that ad-deen kulluhu khuluq, that the religion, all of it is centered around good character, moral character. فَمَنْ فَاقَكَ فِي خُلُقٍ فَاقَكَ فِي الدِّينِ, that whoever outdoes you, outshines you, whoever, is better than you in character, then he is in fact better than you in deen. And in our day and time, we have it the opposite. We put good character on the back burner, and we put aqidah out there, and we put minhaj out there, and making sure your minhaj and your aqidah is straight, and we put good character to the side. You see how we've changed the scales. We've changed the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because now khuluq, good character, takes a back seat, puts on a back burner. And then the person who memorizes what this sheikh said and what that sheikh said and what this sheikh said and what that sheikh said and this point of aqidah and that point of aqidah. And it doesn't matter whether or not you actually, manifest that in your own life. It doesn't matter whether or not you actually practice that. It could be just an abstract theory. It could be an abstract theory that you regurgitate when it's convenient for you. No practice, no practical application of it, no implementation of it, no manifestation of it in your life in real time. It's just abstract theory that you can regurgitate at will. Oh, the aqidah of the Salaf is this. The aqidah, the minhaj of the Salaf is this. And it sounds good. And then we'll use that as the standard for what a good Muslim is. And then we'll put good character on the back burner. And if you notice what happened with that, most of the people who profess to have sound aqidah, sound minhaj, have horrible character. Is it a coincidence? In our society, in our environment, most of the people who profess to have sound aqidah, sound minhaj, to be upon the minhaj of Ahlus Sunnah, the aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, have the worst character. Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here, ad-deen kulluhu khuluq, that our religion, the entirety of our religion is centered around moral character. وَمَنْ فَاقَكَ فِي خُلُقٍ فَاقَكَ فِي الدِّينِ, and whoever outshines you, whoever is better than you as it relates to moral character, then he is better than you in deen. The scholars of Ahlus Sunnah had the best character. One of the scholars of the past, he said, Ahlus Sunnah a'la bin nas bil khaliq wa arhamahum bil khalq. He said that Ahlus Sunnah, the people of the Sunnah, a'la bin nas bil khaliq, they are the most knowledgeable people as it relates to the Creator, wa arhamahum bil khalq, and they are the most merciful of the people to the people. This is Ahlus Sunnah, not the Ahlus Sunnah of our time. No way. The Ahlus Sunnah of our time rule with an iron fist. Get down or lay down. That's the minhaj of Ahlus Sunnah, a Salafiyya in our day and our time. Not everybody. I'm not broad brushing this. It's a loud minority. And they're not so loud anymore. They got their own problems, and that's a whole nother conversation. So we move on to Surah number 12, ayat 33. Surah 12, ayat 33. We're still in Surah to Yusuf, ayat number 33. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is Yusuf now coming to the realization that is nothing that he can do at this point. All right. She says to him, if you don't do now, Yusuf, what I'm commanding you to do, you will be put in prison, and you will be from amongst the lowly of our society. Yusuf coming to the realization that this is now beyond me. This is now above my head, above me now. right? And that brings us to our next lesson. But Yusuf coming to the realization that this is above me now. I'm not going to sleep with this woman. And if I don't sleep with her, I'm going to be put in prison and my reputation is going to be tarnished. She's, because when toxic people can't control you, they control how people see you. All right. She said that if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, here again, the control, right? She said, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ مَا آمُرُهُ. If he doesn't do what I tell him to do, toxic people, they try to first control you. They try to control you. She said, if he doesn't do what I tell him to do, لَيُسْجَنَنَّ, he will be put in prison, وَلَيَكُنَّنَّ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ, and he will be from amongst the humiliated, the lowly of our society, meaning I'm going to tarnish his honor. That's controlling how people see him. So if he don't do what I tell him to do, that's controlling him. Then I'm going to put him in prison and he will be from amongst the humiliated of our society, meaning I'm going to now control how people see him. As we said, lesson number 33 was, lesson number 32. Lesson number 33 was that history is written by the victors. History is written by the victors. She's going to now control the narrative. That he's going to now be from amongst the humiliated, the lowly of our society, because I'm going to tarnish his honor. I'm going to tell everybody he was a bad servant. I'm going to tell everybody he tried to steal from me. I'm going to tell everybody, you're never going to get to the real narrative, because the victor is the one who controls, right? The victor is the one that controls the narrative, and they can force their narrative on everybody. Right? They can force their narrative on everybody because they are the ones that are in the most privileged position. So they get to tell the story. All right. So we move on now to 31, 32, and 33. All right. 31 was be persistent in obedience to Allah, just as those who are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are persistent in their disobedience. 32 was beauty. Never get lost in the physical beauty, that you forget about the moral beauty. Number 33 was that history is written by the victors. The history is controlled. Right. Beauty is only skin deep. Right. So we move on to ayat number 33. Surah 12, ayat 33. So be mindful. Toxic people, they try to control you. And when they can't control you, they control how other people see you. So if they can't get you to do what they want you to do, then they're going to destroy your honor. They're going to tarnish your honor. They're going to control how people see you. And that's seen right there in that message that she made, or in that comment that she made. So we move on to ayat number 33. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Yusuf, at his wit's end, doesn't really have any power, any control over this situation. He calls out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He makes dua in this moment. He makes dua in this moment. He says, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَلَا أَكُنْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. He said, oh my Lord, قَالَ رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ. Oh my Lord, prison is more dear to me. And as some of the scholars say, what he meant by that يعني السجن أسهل علي وأهون علي من الوقوع في المعصية. That prison is easier for me. It would be easier for me, less painful for me to go to prison than for me to sleep with this woman. I mean, go figure. Go figure. Picture a man in our day, in our time, preferring prison over sleeping with a woman in a manner that is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just imagine that level of morality. Just imagine if that level, just an inkling of that level of morality existed amongst the majority of Muslim men today. We would be unstoppable. What has contributed to the erosion of, the men in our community is their morality, is the decline of their morality. And the decline of their morality has, there are a number of factors that have contributed to that. And part and parcel is some Muslim leaders and students of knowledge who they themselves are engaged in following their desires, and they either stay away from addressing certain topics because they know that they are doing it themselves, or, they find a way to manipulate the text to make things seem like they're not that bad. Wallah al-Azim, this is what goes on in our day and time. You have Muslim leaders, students of knowledge who engage in following their desires. And as a result of that, they can't address certain things. They can't step out in front and address certain things because it's a level of guilt and shame attached to that, because I'm doing that too. So how am I going to jump out there and I'm going to address brothers about, taking second wives in the improper way? How am I going to jump out there and address brothers about, the zina? How am I going to jump out there and address brothers about, domestic violence? How am I going to jump out there and address brothers about this and about that? Because I'm doing it too. Or if I'm not doing it, then I have friends that I'm cool with that are doing it, and I would be putting them on Front Street if I did that. And this is what happens when you have, as a leader, unhealthy connections, unhealthy commitments, unhealthy relationships with people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Al-akhilla yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'dhin adu illa al-muttaqeen. That akhilla, which is the plural of khalil, is the plural of intimate friend. Al-akhilla, intimate friends on the day of judgment will be enemies to one another. Illa al-muttaqeen, except those who are pious and righteous, and their friendship was based upon the same piety and righteousness. You can't have unhealthy friendships. You can't, as a Muslim leader, you can't have those. I mean, it's a lonely place to be. It's a lonely place to be, man. To be here, to be in the position of leadership, to be a good leader is to be lonely. And that's a fact. To be a good leader is to be lonely, especially in this day and time. The only thing that you can ask for is bitanatin hasana, is to ask for a good cabinet, to surround yourself by good people. But you can't be out here mingling and rubbing elbows with every Muhammad and Abdullah and Abdurrahman and Abdurrahim. You can't be rubbing elbows with every Muslim man, because you know that they are engaging in certain behaviors. And if you get too close to them, it's going to be awkward relationship for you to get out on the minbar and address certain behaviors. And you know that your man that you hang out with, that you spend time with, that you go to Starbucks with, that you go out and eat with, it's going to be difficult for you to jump out there and address that, because now they're going to start feeling some type of way. They're going to start feeling some type of way. I can't tell you how many friends that I've lost because I've jumped out there on the minbar and said stuff, and brothers looking at me afterwards like, damn, you talking to me? And I'm like, hell yeah, I was talking to you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Absolutely. If the shoe fits, buy an outfit. Absolutely, I'm talking to you. Nobody is above reproach, man. Nobody. But you can't have those type of relationships with people, man. You can't have, as a leader, you can't have those type of relationships with people. You got to keep it pushing, man. Yes, I'm cordial with everybody, but intimacy is only for, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that only let the muttaqi, only let the righteous eat from your food. Meaning, if somebody shares a plate with you, somebody shares a meal with you, that's an intimate connection. I don't sit down and eat with just anybody. The Prophet ﷺ said, only let the taqi, only let the righteous, the person that has taqwa, eat from your food. You understand? You can't just sit. Having a meal with somebody is a metaphor for intimacy. There's an intimate relationship there. I don't just sit down and eat with anybody. And the people who sit down and eat with me, they have to be righteous, have to have some level of righteousness. You understand? Have to. Otherwise, we're going to keep allowing oppression to, encapsulate our entire community. Meanwhile, nobody's saying anything about it. Nobody's saying anything about it. Yusuf alayhi salam, just imagine if the men in our community had that level of morality. He said, رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Oh my Lord, prison is easier for me. أَسْهَلْ عَلَيَّ أَهْوَنْ عَلَيَّ. Prison is easier for me. It's easier for me to go to prison than for me to sleep with this woman. For me to engage them in what they want from me. So he said, إِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ. If you do not remove their scheming, their plots from me. The word kaid again. The word kaid again, the plotting and the scheming. If you do not remove their plotting and their scheming against me away from me, أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ. I might, in my period of weakness as a man, I might incline towards them. وَلَا أَكُنْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And then I would be from the ignorant. We're going to break this whole ayat down. Some of the scholars of Tafsir, they say when Yusuf made this dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Yusuf, Allah sent Angel Jibreel to say, Allah sent, and you're going to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Angel Jibreel to Yusuf on multiple occasions throughout this ordeal. Throughout this entire story. So the first time Allah sent Angel Jibreel to Yusuf was when he was in the well. The second time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel to Yusuf alayhi salam was when he made this comment. Oh my Lord, prison is more dear to me than what they're calling me to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Angel Jibreel to Yusuf in that moment. And he said to Angel Jibreel said to Yusuf, Ya Yusuf, أنت حبست نفسك حيث قلت رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. Jibreel said to Yusuf, pay attention. Second time Allah sent Jibreel to Yusuf in this ordeal. Angel Jibreel came to Yusuf and said, oh Yusuf, Ya Yusuf, أنت حبست نفسك. That you restricted yourself. You restricted yourself when you said, oh my Lord, prison is more dear to me than what they're calling me to. He said, لو قلت العافية أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه لعفيت. If you had said, Yusuf, in this moment, if you had said, oh my Lord, safety from this sin, safety is more dear to me than me committing the sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have removed the prison situation from you altogether. You would have never even went to prison. Subhanallah al-Azim. You see what happened when you're mustajil, you hasty. If Yusuf had said, Rabbi al-afiya ahabbu ilayya mimma yad'unani ilay. Oh my Lord, safety from this sin is more dear to me than what they are calling me to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have given you afiyah. Allah would have given you safety from the sin and you would have never had to go to jail. But because you said prison is more dear to me than what they're calling me to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left you to it. Allah left you to it. You spoke it into fruition. Right? Be mindful of what you pray for. Sometimes we speak things into fruition that go against our own plight. Sometimes we speak things into fruition that, you know, we could have avoided if you had not spoken, which is why you should not, you know, repeat your bad dreams Islamically. Because by you speaking your bad dream, you might actually be speaking it into the world, speaking it into fruition. You're giving life to it. So Jibreel told Yusuf, if you had to just ask for afiyah, if you had to just ask for Allah to protect you, Allah would have just given you protection. But you said prison is more dear to you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left you to it. That's what you wanted. You said you would rather go to prison than do it, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let you go to prison. It reminds me of a statement that Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, yes, Allah is very quick. Sari' al-hisab. Allah is quick in reckoning. It reminds me of a statement of Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala. Imam Ahmed, he said, Da'awtullah and yuhaffidhani al-Quran. He said, I made dua to Allah that Allah allow me to memorize the Quran. Imam Ahmed memorized the Quran, but as an imam, you know, sometimes you're out, you're lecturing and things like that, and you don't really have a lot of time to review the Quran, so you forget a lot. All right, which is why Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Ta'allamu qabla an tasawwadu. Seek knowledge of the religion before you are put in a position of leadership. Because once you get put in a position of leadership, you don't have the time that you had as a student of knowledge. And this is for students of knowledge to understand this. You're a student of knowledge. You're listening now. تَعَلَّمُوا قَبْلَ أَن تَسَوَّدُوا. Seek as much knowledge as you can right now. Because once you get put in a position of leadership, you don't have the luxury of going back and reading the tafasil, reading the intricacies of, masail, fiqhiyya or aqadiyya, whether matters of fiqh or matters of aqidah. You don't have the luxury of sitting back, reading the tafasil, the intricacies and the specificities of, matters of aqidah and detailed matters of the deen. You don't have that luxury anymore. You don't have that luxury anymore. So Imam Ahmed said, Da'awtu Allah and yuhaffidhani al-Quran. I made dua to Allah that Allah allow me to memorize the Quran. He said, وَمَا حَفِظْتُ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا وَأَنَا فِي السِّجْنِ. And I didn't memorize the Quran until I was put in prison. I didn't memorize the whole Quran until I was put in prison. He said, فَإِذَا دَعَوْتُ اللَّهِ فَاسْأَلَ اللَّهَ الْعَافِيَةِ. He said, so when you make dua to Allah for something, ask Allah to give it to you while you are in a good state. Give it to you while it's good for you and you are in a good state. Because you can say, oh, Allah bless me with a righteous husband. Oh, Allah bless me with a righteous wife. And Allah bless you with a righteous spouse. But he also tests you with a sickness at the time. So you can't even enjoy it. Because you asked for a righteous spouse. Allah gave it to you. Ask Allah to give it to you while you are in afiyah. While you are safe, secure, and in a good state. Imam Ahmed said, I asked Allah to allow me to memorize the Quran. And I didn't memorize the Quran until I was put in prison. He said, so when you ask Allah for something, ask Allah to give it to you وَأَنْتَ فِي عَافِيَةٍ, while you are in a good state. Be specific with your dua. Be specific with your dua. So Jibreel told, Yusuf, like, if you had to just ask Allah to protect you, he would have just protected you and you would have never had to go to prison. Now, you've spoken into fruition. So he was now under the pressure of, if you pay attention, right? If you notice in the Arabic, right? For those of you who read Arabic, right? What do you notice in the Arabic? He said, رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Oh, my Lord, prison is more dear to me than what they call me to. Who is they? Because the only one that was desiring him was the wife of the Aziz. If you go back to the story, right? You go back to the story, she said, لَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَاسْتَعْصَمْ وَإِنْ لَمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا أَمُرُهُ لَيُسْجَنَنَّ. She said that I desired him for myself against his own will. And if he doesn't do what I command him to do, that's just one woman. Why is Allah using the plural here? Why is Allah using the plural here? He said, if you do not, prison is more dear to me than what they are calling me to. Why is he saying they? The other women were now on board because now they saw Yusuf. Now they want a piece of it. Can you imagine? His fitna just got magnified, as some of the scholars say it was like 5 women, 7 women. It was about 5 to 7 women there. So can you imagine now just one woman desiring you? Now you have 5 to 7 women desiring the same thing from you. You understand? Now the other women are calling him to do the same thing. I'm next. I got next. I want him next. You understand? His fitna just went from 0 to 100. Multiplied. So now it's not just the wife of the Aziz desiring him. Now all of the women want him. Now all of the women want him. Can you imagine? You fighting all 5 to 7 women? They're desiring you, and I'm saying this because I want brothers to understand. This is especially for imams. And I know the imams, they don't listen to me because they're imams, obviously. Students of knowledge, they got their own thing going on. But for those of you who have close relationships with students of knowledge and imams, preachers and teachers who are in these positions, convey this to them. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests you with 4 or 5 women desiring you. It happens. You get an email, oh, brother Imam, I got a sister, she's looking for marriage, wanted to know if you were looking for another wife. Oh, brother Imam, you have it. That is a fitna. That is a test being put in that position as an imam of a masjid, and you got 3 or 4 sisters in the masjid desiring you. That's a fitna. And don't think that you are impervious to that because, you're God-fearing. The thing is that women are attracted to power. Women are attracted to power. You understand? It's not you. Don't get yourself, don't get on your high horse and start tooting your own horn. They're not attracted to you. They're attracted to the power, the powerful position that you are in. She don't want you. She not desiring you. Handsome men are all over the place. A woman can have any man she wants. A man can't. A man cannot have any woman he wants, but a woman can have any man she wants. If she has the right type of finesse, she has the right type of approach, she has the right type of demeanor, she has the right type of confidence, a woman can have any man she wants. Opposite a man. A man cannot have any woman that he wants. Not going to happen. But the point that I'm making is that just as Yusuf was being pursued by these women and he resisted, as an imam of a masjid, as a student of knowledge, as, a da'i, whatever title you want to give yourself, you could possibly be put in the same position. And you have some imams, some students of knowledge, some preachers, some teachers who exercise poor judgment in these situations. Any woman that shows you attention, any woman who shows an interest in you, any woman who tells you, oh, I've been listening to you for a long time and mashallah, brother this, and his head just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's a fact. I know personally that's a fact. And some men in these positions, they exercise extremely poor judgment. Extremely poor judgment. And you have to look at the situation no different than the way that Yusuf looked at his situation. You gotta resist. You gotta resist. When you realize that she want to be married to you, not because of you, because she wants to be the imam's wife. She wants to be a student of knowledge's wife. When you realize that, when you come to that realization, you realize that you're just being exploited. You realize that you're being exploited, that she don't want you for you. She want to be your wife because she wants to parade around saying, I'm the wife of student so-and-so. I'm the wife of imam so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like that's, and I mean, when you come to that realization, then you will push your brakes. You will pump on your brakes and you will be mindful about your selection process. You'll be mindful. You actually want to marry somebody who don't give a damn about whether or not you're a student of knowledge, who don't care about whether or not you're an imam on a minbar. She don't care about any of that stuff. You understand? That's the type of woman you want to be married to because then the marriage is going to be genuine. She wants you for you. She doesn't want you because of what sheikh you know what I mean? Like your credentials. She wants you because of, you're top imam and you're the imam of this masjid, or you're a student of knowledge from Yemen, or you're the student of knowledge that studied in this university or that university. She wants the accolades. She don't want you. You just come with the territory. And the moment, the quicker you come to that realization, the quicker you stop putting yourself out there to be exploited by woman after woman after woman. And that's a fact. It's exploitation. That's the environment that we live in. Women do it, men do it. We exploit people for what we want. We get from you what we want from you, and then it's, off to the next person. Sociopaths. That's our society. That's what social media has bred in us. So, Yusuf had to resist. He's not just now resisting one woman. He's now resisting 7 women. And he says, oh my Lord, prison is more dear to me. Mimma yad'unani ilay. Prison is more dear to me than what they are calling to me. So it's not just one woman anymore. It's not just one woman anymore. Now it's multiple women. How many students of knowledge, imams, preachers, and teachers could resist that? Is a woman who wants to marry you? Oh, there's a sister checking for you, imam. Oh, there's a sister looking for you. Sister want to know you looking for another wife. It's like, no, I'm not looking for another wife. When she says, are you looking for another wife? That should, send a signal to you. What woman says, is he looking for another wife? You already put yourself out there to be exploited. How about I'm just going to shoot my shot? I don't care if he's looking for another wife or not. Is he looking for another wife? If the brother looking for another wife, why are you exploiting? That statement within itself is exploitation. Sisters, please stop saying that. Please stop asking brothers, are you looking for another wife? Because that means that you are game to be another wife. That is exploitation. You are exploiting yourself. You're pimping yourself. You're pimping yourself. Have some dignity about yourself. So he was under this pressure. Now all of the women desiring him like the wife of the Aziz. So all of them were now requesting from Yusuf the same exact thing. Now we move on to lesson number 34. Lesson number 34. What's the lesson here? So many lessons in this ayah. Lesson number 34. Learn to yield to your own weaknesses. Learn how to yield to your own weaknesses. I've said it before. Some of the scholars, I believe it was Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, Rahimallah mri'in arafa qadra nafsa. Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, Rahimallah mri'in, may Allah have mercy upon an individual, upon a man, arafa qadra nafsa, that he knows his own limits. May Allah have mercy. Have mercy upon a man who knows his own limits. Yield to your own weaknesses. Yusuf alayhi salam, he said, إِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ. If you do not remove their plotting and their scheming from me, I may incline towards them. I'm a man. I'm human. I'm human. How long can I resist without the intervention of my Lord? How long can I resist without divine intervention? How long can I resist? Yield to your own weaknesses, your own insecurities. Yield to your own weaknesses. Know yourself. Yusuf alayhi salam knew that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not intervene in this moment, that there is a strong possibility that I might give in to that. You have to know your limits. Know your limits. Yield to your own weaknesses. This is why the Prophet ﷺ taught us in a dua, Allahumma rahmatika arju, fala takilni ila nafsi tarafat ayn, wa aslih li sha'ni kulla la ilaha illa anta. The Prophet ﷺ taught us this dua. He said, Allahumma rahmatika arju. Oh Allah, your mercy is what I hope for, what I desire. Fala takilni ila nafsi tarafat ayn. Do not leave me to myself, not even for the time that it takes for me to blink my eye. Don't leave me to myself. Don't leave me to my own vices. Not even for the time that it takes for me to blink my eye. SubhanAllah. You need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection 24/7. This is a person who understands his own weaknesses. فَلَا تَكِلْنِي إِلَى نَفْسِي طَرَفَةَ عَيْنٍ. Not even for the time that it takes for you to blink your eye within a 24-hour period of your day. Oh God, do not leave me to fend for myself. Do not leave me to my own vices, even for the time that it takes for me to blink my eye. Within a 24-hour span, don't even leave me alone for that much. In a 24-hour period, don't leave me alone for that amount of time. That's how long it takes to blink an eye. Yielding to your own weaknesses, meaning understanding your weaknesses and stopping there, not to continue on If sometimes people know that they are weak, for example, if you know that you are a recovering addict, you know that you are a recovering alcoholic, don't put yourself around people who are drinking and drugging and perhaps trigger your weaknesses. Yield to your weaknesses. Understand that there's people, places, and things that I cannot be around. You understand? Understand that I might be venturing into a particular space that I know is going to trigger one of my weaknesses. So let me not put myself in that situation. You understand? That's what it means to yield to your own weaknesses. Understanding your own weaknesses. And we all have them. But you got to be able to see ahead of time where this situation is leading. Yusuf saw, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if God does not intervene in this very moment, I no longer am worried about just one beautiful, wealthy, powerful woman. Now I have to worry about 5 to 7 powerful, beautiful women, all desiring me. And if God does not intervene in this moment, I'm done. I'm going to give in. He said, وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ. That if you do not turn their plotting and their scheming away from me, meaning if you do not intervene, أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ, I may incline towards them. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, and then I would be ignorant. The Prophet ﷺ taught us, oh Allah, don't leave me to myself, not even for the blinking of an eye. إِعْتِرَافْ بِضَعْفِكَ. Acknowledge and recognize your own weaknesses. Yusuf recognized that without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this moment, he's left to his own vices. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, for those of you who understand Arabic, I'm about to give you some hillu. I'm about to give you some halawa. I'm about to give you some sweets. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, was reported that he mentioned this line of poetry. إِنِّي ابْتَلِيتُ بِأَرْبَعٍ مَا سُلِّتُ إِلَّا لِشِدَّةِ شَقْوَتِي وَعَنَائِي إِبْلِيسُ وَدُنْيَا وَنَفْسِي وَهَوَى كَيْفَ الْخَلَاصُ وَكُلُّهُمْ أَعْدَائِي. Beautiful, beautiful line of poetry. Imam Shafi'i said, إِنِّي ابْتُلِيتُ بِأَرْبَعٍ مَا سُلِّتُ, that I have been tested with 4 things. 4 things. And they will gain mastery over me, gain authority over me if I do not have the help of Allah and my own due diligence. Iblis, wa dunya wa nafsi wa hawa. Iblis, shaitan, ad-dunya, the glitter and the glamour and the opulence of the world. Wa nafsi, and my own desire, my own soul. Wa hawa, and my lowly desires. 4 things I've been tested with. They will conquer me if I don't have the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my own due diligence. He said, كَيْفَ الْخَلَاصُ وَكُلُّهُمْ أَعْدَائِي. How can I win against these 4 when all of them are my enemies? All of them are working against me. Every single one of us have those 4 enemies. Every single one of us. إِنِّي ابْتُلِيتُ بِأَرْبَعٍ مَا سُلِّتُ إلا لشدة شقوتي وعنائي إبليس والدنيا ونفسي وهوى كيف الخلاص وكلهم أعدائي. Subhanallah. So beautiful. And of course, those 4 things, how do you combat those 4 things? How do you combat Iblis? Al-istiyadha, seeking refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you combat the dunya? By thinking about the akhirah. Concentrating on the hereafter. That balances. Right? So you don't get too tied up in the dunya. How do you deal with your nafs? Obviously, to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Huwa mawla, he is the guardian of the nafs. Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. As the Prophet ﷺ taught us in the dua, Allahumma zakki nafsi, ati nafsi taqwaha. Oh Allah, give my soul its taqwa. وَزَكِّهَا أَنْتَ خَيْرٌ مِنْ زَكَّاهَا, and purify it, for you are the best to purify the souls. Anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. And you are its wali, you are its guardian, wa mawlaha, and its protector. The next, you need its Lord. Wa hawa, and how do you deal with your hawa? Fasting, not allowing your desires to get out of control, not putting yourself in situations that, would trigger your desire. So there's ways to deal with those four, but every single one of them is enemies to us. And this is why Islam has prohibited coming close to actions like zina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in surah number 17, ayat 32, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا zina. Don't come close. Don't come close to zina. Allah didn't say don't fornicate, don't commit adultery, don't fornicate. He said don't come close to it. Meaning anything that leads to it takes the same ruling as it. The talking, the being alone, the showing up at different places. These are the things that lead. And sometimes we put ourselves in precarious situations, and then afterwards we're calling on Allah, begging Allah for forgiveness, when you could have avoided that situation altogether had you just yielded to your own weaknesses. But we overestimate ourselves. And as the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La taqrabu zina, don't come close to it, don't go near it, because sins like zina, like fornication and adultery, as the scholars say about seeking knowledge, suhulatu dukhul wa su'ubatu khuruj, that is easy to get into, hard to get out of. It's hard to get out of, especially for men. Because men, we allow women to get us to make emotional commitments. We make emotional commitments to women. And then we feel guilty that we can't pull out of the situation midway because I done made this woman all these promises. I done told her, we was going to get married. I done told her this and that. And it's just like, yeah, but you shouldn't have made those emotional commitments. You don't have to respond to those. You can call that off. You so worried about fulfilling an emotional commitment to somebody you're not even married to. You're not even fulfilling the moral commitment to the woman you are married to. How about that? You steady going to go through with the marriage because you done made this woman all these promises, and now you can't call out on your promises now, but you made your wife promises. And you reneged on all of those. You so worried about the emotional promises and the emotional commitments that you're forgetting about your moral commitment. You don't have no commitment to that woman, regardless of what you told her. Yeah, she gonna walk away seeing you as a front. Yeah, she gonna walk away seeing you as a liar. Yeah, she gonna walk away seeing you as a fraud. Yeah, she might walk away and tell everybody stuff that y'all did and stuff that y'all said. You gotta live with that. You gotta live with that. But you gonna go ahead with the marriage anyway, knowing that the situation ain't gonna work, knowing the situation is not gonna last because you made an emotional commitment. What about the moral commitment you made to the woman that you are married to? These types of sins, suhulatu dukhul, su'ubatu khuruj, they're easy to get into, hard to get out of. Don't even put yourself in a situation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in surah number 17, ayat 32, surah Isra, ayat 32, La taqrabu zina, don't even come close to it. Don't even come close, right? You got to live in your discomfort. You got to stand in that discomfort. You made some promises. You did some things that you had no business doing. You got to live with that. But I'm not going to go ahead and marry you because, well, I already promised you. I already bought the dowry. So what? Take the dowry back. So what? You about to make a huge mistake. You done, on top of the mistakes you done already made. You about to make a huge mistake. I'm okay with a woman that I am not married to walking away believing that I'm a fraud, that I'm a fake. I made some promises. I never came through on that. I'm okay with you believing that. And I'll make tawbah and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive that. But I'm not going to marry you, right? I still got moral obligations to the woman that I'm already with. You understand? And I came to the realization that we've gone too far in this and we need to stop. We need to stop. And that's for men. Women have no problem coming to the realization that they've gone too far and they need to stop. Because that's where women draw the line and they're like, listen, we need to either get married or we need to stop this. You understand? That's it. Though when ain't no more, there's no more women, they're like faucets. It's either on or off, period. Men, we still trying to rationalize. We still trying to, figure out how to have our cake and eat it too. Nah, man, you got to just cut that off. It's over with, man. It's over with. You went too far. You did not yield. You did not yield to your weaknesses. Because once you're in it, it's difficult to get out. So don't put yourself in situations that will arouse your desire, except that you have a halal alternative. Men, do not put yourself in a situation where your desire will be aroused, except that you have a halal alternative. If you don't have a halal alternative, then don't do it. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that if one of you leaves out of your home and you see something that arouses your desire, then go home to your wife, because she has what she has. She has what she has. Meaning your desire got aroused, but you had a halal alternative. For those of you who don't have a halal alternative, the haram becomes your only alternative. All right. Lesson number 35. Lesson number 35. What did he say at the end of the ayat? He said, if you do not remove this from me, then I might incline towards them, وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, and then I will be from the ignorant. I will be from the ignorant. All right. If you are interested in donating money for, the masjid fund, if you still want to donate, as well as for Zakat al-Fitr, and I'll get to that, I wanted to discuss that towards the end of the lecture. Zakat al-Fitr, which many people say many scholars, have made it a point to say that it's roughly between $7 or $10 per person per household. So if there's 7 people in a house, that's $70 for Zakat al-Fitr. And inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to do a separate post for people who would like to donate their Zakat al-Fitr. And inshallah ta'ala, I know some families that could use that. And I would collect that from you guys and I would distribute it to the families if you would like to do that, inshallah. All right, so I'll do a separate post for that, inshallah. All right, so lesson number 35. Everyone who disobeys Allah is ignorant of Allah. He said, وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. He said, if you do not remove their plots, their scheming, you do not remove this from me, I might incline towards them, and then I would be from amongst the ignorant. Everyone who disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has some level of ignorance. Everyone that disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ignorant of Allah. All right. Ignorant of Allah's right to be obeyed and not disobeyed. Ignorance of the consequences of disobeying Allah. And ignorant of the reward for obeying Allah. As Allah mentions in Surah number 4, ayah 17. Turn to Surah number 4, ayah 17. Surah to Nisa, ayah 17. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا التَّوْبَةُ عَلَى اللَّهِ لِلَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ السُّوءَ بِجَهَالَةٍ ثُمَّ يَتُوبُونَ مِنْ قَرِيبٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed, the only tawbah that Allah will accept is the tawbah of those, the repentance of those who do evil in ignorance. And Ibn Abbas said, كُلُّ مَنْ عَصَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ جَاهِلٌ. Anyone that disobeys Allah is ignorant. You are ignorant at the time that you are disobeying Allah. Ignorant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ignorant of Allah's right to be obeyed and not disobeyed. Ignorant of the consequences of your actions. And ignorant of the reward if you had just exercised patience and staying away from it. Lesson number 36. Lesson number 36. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always aware of our need for him. He's just waiting for us to call. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always aware of our need for him. He's just waiting for us to call on him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heard Yusuf going into the next ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. We're on ayah 12, surah 12, ayah 34, the next ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. And his Lord responded to him. Allah responded immediately. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded immediately. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. His Lord responded to him immediately. مُبَاشَرَةً. Immediately. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. That indeed Allah is as-Sami', the all-hearer, the all-aware. That Allah responded to him. فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ, and he removed their plotting from him. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ, he is the all-hearer, the all-knowledgeable. Lesson number 36 here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always aware of our need for him. He's just waiting for us to call on him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew, Allah is the one that tested Yusuf with this situation. Allah knew when he was creating this test for Yusuf that Yusuf was going to call on him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that when Yusuf called on him, he was going to respond. So what does that tell you? That tells you that Allah's response is already waiting only for you to call. Allah already knew that Yusuf was going to make dua. My question, why didn't Allah remove the situation from Yusuf before he made this dua? Because the dua is the thing that executes the qadr. Dua is the thing that executes the qadr. The qadr is waiting. It's there waiting for you. It's already written, already decreed. But in order for that qadr to be executed, there's a sabab. There's something that you have to do. And when you do it, the qadr is executed. That's the way that the qadr works. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is already aware of our need for him. He's just waiting for us to call. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just waiting for us to call on him. As Allah says in the Quran, turn to surah number 2, ayat 186. This is after the group of ayats related to fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? إِذَا سَأَلَكَ إِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when my servants ask you about me, O Muhammad, tell them I'm near. Meaning with Allah's knowledge. He knows. He knows. Allah knows what you're going through. But you gotta ask. And this is the saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And that applies even to dua. Allah is not going to respond until you call. You got to ask. The qadr is there waiting for you. All you have to do is open your mouth. All Yusuf had to do was open his mouth and the qadr would be executed. He said, oh, my Lord, prison is more dear to me than what they're calling me to. If you don't remove their plot and scheming from me, I might incline towards them and then I would be ignorant. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. Allah responds immediately. All Allah was waiting for was him to respond. One of Allah's names is As-Sabur. Allah is the patient. Allah is the patient, just waiting for you to respond. Just waiting for you to call on him. Allah is just waiting for you to call on him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware. Al-Khabir, he's all aware. And he's aware of our need for him. He's just waiting for us to call on him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Naml, Surah number 27, ayah 62. Write this ayah down. Very important. The next time that you are going through something in your life, I want you to remember this ayah. I want you to remember this ayah. Jazakallah khair, Ali Sabir. If once I throw an ayah out there, if somebody can just post the ayah in English so people can actually see the ayah, that would be great, man. That would be awesome. That is an excellent way for people to kind of see the ayah right there. All right. And sometimes it's hard to envision the ayah as I'm saying it, but if you see it right there in front of you, you can actually read the ayah. Surah number 27, ayah 62. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلٌ مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, listen to this ayah. The next time you are in pain, the next time you are stressed out, the next time you are in distress, the next time you are feeling anxious, the next time you are overwhelmed by your circumstance, I want you to remember this ayah right here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked a rhetorical question. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ. Who else is it that can respond to the one that is in desperation, the one that is in distress? Who else is there that can respond to him? أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. Who else is it that can respond to the mu'tar, the one who is in dire straits, the one that is distressed, the one that is in desperate times? Who else can respond to him when he calls, right? Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ, and to remove whatever it is that is affecting them. وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ, and make you leaders in the earth. إِلَهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ, is there another God alongside Allah? SubhanAllah, beautiful ayah. Is there another God besides Allah that can do that? Instagram, you're going to turn off. I'll turn you right back on, inshallah. Just so powerful, man. The next time you are going through something in your life, I want you to say that statement. Who else is there that can do that other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's a rhetorical question. The rhetorical question is not for you. It doesn't elicit a response. It's not trying to get you to respond to it. It's to get your attention. That's what a rhetorical question is designed to do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, can he who else is it that can respond to the one that is in distress? And to remove, when he calls on them, and to remove that from them. Ilahu ma'allah, is there another God besides Allah? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes all distress. All right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ, and his Lord responded to him. فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ, and he removed their plotting and their scheming from him. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. And now we move on to the next ayah. Pay attention to this next ayah, because this will explain everything. This is right before Yusuf goes into prison, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُم مِّن بَعْدِ مَا رَأَوُا الْآيَاتِ لَيُسْجُنُنَّهُ حَتَّى حِينٍ. And then they all decided, after they saw the signs, that it was best to put him in prison for an undisclosed amount of time, for an indefinite period of time. Who is they? ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُم. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using pronouns, and if you're following along in Arabic, sometimes that can be confusing, because he started off with the Aziz himself, and now he's using a plural. Who is he referring to? Who is them? ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُمْ. Then it became apparent to them. Who is them? The women? No. No. Some of the scholars say it was the Aziz and his council, and some say it was the Aziz and the husbands of the wives. The husbands now got involved, because these women had to go home with their hands cut. Keep in mind. The men, it was the husbands. These women come home with their hands cut up. The husbands are like, you went to the Aziz's wife house for a banquet, for lunch. How you come home with your hands, cut up? How does that happen? So it was Zuleika's husband and the other husbands of the other wives, the men. ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُمْ. Then it became apparent to them, meaning to the men, مِن بَعْدِ مَا رَأَوُا الْآيَاتِ, after they saw the clear signs. So some of the scholars say it was the Aziz and his personal counsel, and some say it was the Aziz and the husbands of the wives who cut their hands gazing at Yusuf. These men, they were upset. They were offended that they sent their wives to the house of the Aziz, and now they come home with their hands cut because they were gazing at this handsome servant. So now they approach the Aziz and they demand retribution. I sent my wife to your house and my wife come home with her hand cut. These are wealthy people. Understand, they want somebody to be accountable. Understand how this works. And this is going to segue into a whole nother conversation. I'm hoping that we got at least another 20 minutes, man, because we need to have this conversation, man. All right. So some scholars say that it was the wife who suggested it to the Aziz, who said put him in prison. Some of the scholars of Tafsir said that she said, this slave embarrassed me in front of my company. And she appealed to her husband, the Aziz, to put them. So it was all of them, pretty much. We could just say it was all of them. Absolutely. It was the Aziz, his counsel. It was the men of the husbands of the wives, and it was the wife herself. All of them, they all decided that prison is the best thing for Yusuf in this time. And some of the scholars say that this is also a second proof that the Aziz, the husband, was a deyuth, was a cuckold, because he responded to his wife when she said, put him in prison. And he just said, okay. And he responded to that. So what are the signs? Allah says, min ba'di ma ra'awul ayat. What are the signs that they saw? They decided to put him in prison after they saw the signs of his innocence. What are the signs that pointed to the fact that he was innocent? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing you here oppression. They are oppressing him. They decided to put him in prison after they saw the signs that he was innocent. For what? What were the signs that they saw of his innocence? Come on, let's reiterate that. What were the signs of his innocence? Number one, his shirt was ripped from the back. What else? Allah says they saw ayat, signs. So it was more than one thing pointed to his innocence. How do we know that Yusuf was innocent? Number one, the shirt was torn from the back. What else? The witness was shahidun min ahliha, the witness from her family, right? Who else? He has scratches on his face. Zuleika scratched him on his face. Some of the scholars mentioned that. All right. So they decided to put him in prison even after they saw the signs. Allah is alluding to oppression here. Because why are you putting him in prison? He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. No, she didn't confess yet. The wife did not. This is not her confession. We'll get to her confession. She confesses before Yusuf is released from prison. All right. This is not her confession yet. So they decided to put Yusuf in prison so that the women would not be able to see him again. And he would remain under the authority of the Aziz in prison. And they were trying to give it some time so that the women would forget about him and they could put this incident behind them. I mean, these were the upper tiers of the Egyptian society. They couldn't have, this stuff getting out to the public that their wives are, somehow desiring the slave boy. Like, they couldn't have that getting out like that. So they had to put Yusuf on ice. They had to put him on ice, right? They had to put Yusuf on ice, put Yusuf in prison, and we'll leave him there hatta heen, as it mentions in the ayah, for an undisclosed amount of time. Meaning until this situation dies down. He's going to stay in prison until these women forget about him. Right? And they kept him in prison so that this situation could die down. The women would eventually forget about him. And this is a lesson. And this brings me to lesson number 37. Lesson number 37. And that is, to whom much is given, much is expected. To whom much is given, much is expected. In a class system, we're going to get political here for a little bit. In a class system or a caste system, because that's the way their societies were structured. All right. It's a caste system, the upper echelons, the lower tiers. Even when the Prophet ﷺ became the prophet and he began preaching, you understand, he began preaching to the lower tiers of society. But he tried to mix it up a little bit. All right. So he had Miqdad ibn Aswad. He had Bilal ibn Abi Rabah. He had all these ex-slaves. He had these people from the lower tiers of society. Right. And Quraysh's issue was, all right, even if your message is the truth, we're not standing side by side with slaves. Like, come on, this is my slave. Bilal is my slave. Miqdad is my slave. I'm not, Yasser and, Suhaila and, Amr. Like, these are slaves. These are nobodies from our society. We're not standing in prayer next to them. We're above them, right? There's even ayats in the Quran that speak about that. وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Do not turn away those who, desire the face of their Lord, calling on their Lord night and day. Don't turn them away. Don't chase them away. And the reason why that ayah was revealed, because some of the chiefs of Quraysh went to the Prophet ﷺ and said, okay, Muhammad, you want us to follow you? We'll follow you, but you got to get rid of these slaves. You got to get rid of Bilal and Miqdad and, Suhaib. And you got to get rid of these people. We're not following behind them. You understand? And Allah admonished the Prophet ﷺ, saying to him, nah, you don't chase them away. The valor of a leader, the valor of, a prophet and a messenger is found in giving voice to the voiceless, not placating the feelings of the hegemony. You're not sent to placate. And that's what's happening in our day and time. Muslim leaders are placating the feelings of the hegemony instead of appealing to those who come from the lower tiers of society. We have the prophetic blueprint backwards. We have the Islamic blueprint, the prophetic blueprint of da'wah. We have it backwards because our Islamic leaders appeal to the hegemony. They appeal to, the upper tiers, the upper class of American society because they want to be welcomed with open arms. They want to be acknowledged as an integral part of, the American fabric. You understand? And then they forget about, that's the only reason why, ICNA could go into one of the poorest cities in America, like Baltimore, and do a 3-day conference, invite all these shuyukh from all over, do these fundraisers, elaborate fundraisers, millions and millions of dollars you collected over a 3-day period, and leave out of the city of Baltimore and don't give a dime to, some of the masajid in the city of Baltimore that are struggling, that need help. As a matter of fact, skip not giving those masajid any sadaqah, a dime. You didn't even bother to invite any of the imams in Baltimore. Out of respect, you in their city. None of y'all live in the city of Baltimore. None of y'all living in the city of Baltimore. But you go to Baltimore to do your fundraising and to do your 3-day conference, right? You don't even invite any of the imams. When did the Prophet ﷺ ever go into a town or a village or go into a place and not extend, an invite to the leader of those tribes, the leader of those peoples, out of respect for them? You go into the city of Baltimore, it's like, to hell with them. They ain't nobody. Who are they? And then you got a roster of 25 imams, scholars, preachers, and teachers from all over, all from the same, East Indian demographic. All from the East Indian demographic, right? You got maybe 1 or 2 African Americans, and they only there for poetry and fundraising. That's all we're good for. Here again, even in the Islamic community, the only thing that we're good for is shenaniganizing and cooning and tap dancing and entertaining. That's the only thing that we're good for. I'm speaking facts. Stop me when I'm wrong. Stop me when I'm wrong. You have a whole roster of a 3-day conference, 27 scholars on a 3-day conference, and two of those people are African American. One of them there is for fundraising, the other one is there for a poetry slam and a little kalima here, a little kalima there, little 10-minute kalima here, Come on, man. I mean, only people who don't have eyes, only the people who don't use their eyes are the ones that can't see it. I'm sorry. And this is not the first time I've said it. It's not the second time I've said it. Don't get mad at me for stating the obvious. Don't get mad at me for pointing at the elephant in the room. How you go to a city like Baltimore, do a 3-day conference, and you never even extend an invite to the imams from that locality? Out of respect for them. Out of respect. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry that you're saying to the black community, either we do not qualify to share those type of platforms, or we do qualify, but, we're not needed. Y'all got this. I mean, when did the Prophet ﷺ ever go into a village, ever go into a town, ever go into any place and not speak to the leaders of those people, the influential of those? I mean, you know how powerful that would be for ICNA to have a conference in a city like Baltimore and then invite some of the imams, the well-known, respected imams who have been imams in that city for years, have big respect from the Muslims in that city, and invite them, even if they're not speaking, but invite them and let them have a seat at the table out of respect for them. But you come in, you do your fundraising, your poetry, you got your kids out there, and then you pack up and you leave on Sunday. You go home, you count your money, you put your stuff in the bank account, and then you do give donations to masajid that are, people ran by people from your cultural demographic. You do. But you don't give none to the people in the city that you came. So that's the problem. We have totally thrown, like, don't talk to me about giving dawah. Don't ever open your mouth. All these YouTube videos and all these thousands and thousands of followers and thousands of viewers and likes and all of that stuff, man. I'm sorry. I see through all of that. I'm sorry. That is not dawah. That is not dawah. The Prophet ﷺ went after the poor, the marginalized. Not all. But that is what he invested a lot of time and energy, because they are the ones that they want to have this closeness to God. They've been downtrodden, beaten down by society. And so while we talk about giving dawah, you doing a dawah, seminar, dawah. Like, how in the world you teaching somebody how to give dawah and you ain't never been in the trenches and gave nobody dawah? When you ever been to the inner city to give people dawah? When? Please tell me. You going from college to college, this org and that organization, this seminar and that seminar, teaching about how to give dawah. When the hell have you ever been into the slums of America and the inner cities of America, prisons in America, and have given dawah to anybody? You can't open your mouth about giving dawah, man. I laugh at that stuff. I'm like, giving dawah? Giving dawah to who? Who you giving dawah to? I'm confused. And you see all these likes and mashallah, the brother gave it up. I mean, Allah, sometimes it makes me wonder, do we even really know what Islam is? Do we even know what Islam is? So lesson number 37, to whom much is given, much is expected. In a class system, in a caste system, this is what usually happened. The elite, although the perpetrators of a lot of the immorality, a lot of the crime, a lot of the things that go on, they usually escape accountability of any sort because they have reputations to uphold, right? Like the white kid who raped the person and the judge gave him like a couple of months on probation because the judge said he had a whole life ahead of him. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they escape accountability, although the perpetrators of a lot of the dysfunction in our society. There's more cocaine, more heroin, more Oxycontin, more, any drug you can name. There's more drugs on elite college campuses than you will find in any hood. In any hood. You will find more drugs, more cocaine, more heroin on college campuses, elite college campuses, prestigious universities around America. You'll find more cocaine, more heroin, more Oxycontin, more of these, drugs on these college campuses than you will find in any hood. But you will never see any of these college campuses being policed the way that you would the inner cities. Never. Never. You will never find that. Why? Because in a caste system, in a class system, the elite, who are usually the perpetrators of a lot of the dysfunction and immorality of society, usually escape accountability of any sort, while the blame is always put on who? The blame is always put on who? The blame is always put on the poor and those who lack the ability to defend themselves. There's this situation with the wife of the Aziz and Yusuf. Yusuf's a servant. Why is so much expectation on him? Why was not the expectation on the wife of the Aziz that she would not stoop so low as to try to seduce, her servant? To whom much is given, much is expected. You are a position, you hold yourself up here, then the expectation is going to be up here. You understand? We don't hold those who can barely defend themselves, who lacking in resources. We don't hold them to the standards that we would hold the elite. But this is what happens. Even in the Islamic community, this is what happens. So even though they knew Yusuf was innocent, they saw the signs, they knew Yusuf was innocent, the wife gets to decide what happens to him. And she walks away with no accountability. She walks away with no accountability. Put him in prison until this situation dies down, right? It almost reminds us of how African Americans are treated, you know, when a crime is done in a white neighborhood and they just need somebody to take the fall for it, right? Hence the fact, the five, right? The five people who were arrested for the Central Park jogging, mugging, murder, right? Put these guys in prison, man, subhanAllah, for all of these years, just because white people needed somebody to take the rap for it. The elite needed somebody to take responsibility for one of their own being hurt. And who do you look to yeah, we're going to hold you accountable. You understand? And in Islam, the rules apply equally across the board. There is no, you know, there is no double standards. And even in the Muslim community, we do the same thing. When that's my boy, that's my man, and he does something wrong, you know, oh, brother, you shouldn't be exposing people's sins. You know, you should talk to him privately. We should do this. But when the shoe is on the other foot, right? When the shoe is on the other foot, now I'm going to expose you. I'm going to put your business all on Front Street. But when it's your man that's under fire, oh, we run off all the Islamic texts on why we should cover our brother's fault, why we should not expose our brother, blah, 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 to the end of it, because it's your boy. But when it's somebody else, somebody that you separate as an enemy, then it's like fair game. We're going to expose everything about you. That's the double standard in the Islamic community. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith, a woman stole. She was from one of the upper tribes of Meccan society, Makhzum, the tribe of Makhzum, right? She was from the upper tiers of Meccan society. Here again, showing you how the elite always escape accountability. And then, you know, the book is thrown at those who are poor and lacking in resources, right? This woman, she stole. And the Sahaba were trying to find someone to go talk to the Prophet ﷺ on her behalf to kind of let her go. Hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. And so they sent Usama ibn Zayd, who was Hubb Rasulillah. He was one of the youth from amongst the Sahaba that the Prophet ﷺ loved dearly. So they sent Usama ibn Zayd, go talk to the Prophet ﷺ, tell him to let her go. They bring in that pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah mentality into Islam of double standards. Oh, she's from the tribe of Makhzum. We can't hold her accountable. She's from the elite. So Usama came to the Prophet ﷺ like, yeah, you know, she's from the tribe of Makhzum. The Prophet ﷺ looked at Usama and said, Usama, atashhad fi haddin min hududillah? Are you trying to intercede in a capital punishment that has been ordained by God? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained the cutting off the hand of the thief. I don't have no say and so in that. I'm a servant in that regard, just like you are. Are you trying to butter me up? You trying to soften me up to let this woman go? And he realized that they were bringing that mentality into Islam. He got on the minbar and addressed the behavior in public. Here we're talking about addressing behaviors in public. The Prophet ﷺ got on the minbar. He said, the nations that came before you were destroyed because if a wealthy person from amongst them stole, they would be let go. And if a poor person stole, they would establish the punishment against him. He said, Waymullah, lo anna Fatima bintu Muhammadin sariqat laqata'tu yadaha. He said, I swear by Allah, I swear to God, if my own daughter Fatima stole, I would cut her hand off. Not I would order somebody to cut her hand off. I would do it myself. You understand? If my own daughter Fatima stole, I would cut her hand off because there is no culture of double standards in Islam. As a matter of fact, mercy and leniency is extended to those who don't have because they don't have, such as a slave or servant or someone who comes from the lower tiers of society lacking in resources. Leniency and mercy and compassion are extended to them rather than somebody who comes from the upper tiers of society, which goes back to my point. That to whom much is given, much is expected. To whom much is given, much is expected. You hold yourself to be a scholar, right? We do this with the scholars in Islam. We say, oh, the sheikh said, and then when it comes to find out that the sheikh is dead wrong, it's like, oh, well, that's the sheikh. Nah, but you're a scholar. And so we're going to hold you to a higher place. And therefore, the greater the responsibility, the greater the accountability. You don't just get to be a scholar and sit on this pedestal and say, oh, this person's astray, that person's astray. I remember they went to one sheikh, and I used to be very fond of this particular sheikh. I used to be very fond of him. I actually used to sit in a lot of his lessons, you know what I mean? But, I've since lost my taste for a lot of that stuff for obvious reasons. But they went back to this particular scholar, and they got him to say that Mufti Munir didn't even graduate from the Islamic University, that he only finished the Arabic language program. Meanwhile, Mufti Munir graduated with a master's degree. The sheikh was like, oh, Mufti Munir, Muhammad Munir, oh, he didn't even graduate from the Islamic University. He barely graduated from the Arabic language program. Meanwhile, he got a master's degree. What are you talking about? And you're a scholar? You're a sheikh? You're someone that people call Allama, Sheikh, Fulan? Really? You gotta be kidding me. And then we just brush that under the rug like it's nothing. But I'm saying if you're a scholar, if you're a sheikh, you're a scholar, then you should be held to a higher, that type of behavior should be beneath you. You should be the first one to cross your T's, dot your I's before you open your mouth. And you're speaking about people, you're speaking about a demographic of people that you know absolutely nothing about. Oh, this person's astray. Don't pray except in the Salafi masjid. Meanwhile, in one city, you got 7, 8 masjids in one city and one little hole in the wall they call a Salafi masjid. And then you got this sheikh from a whole nother country, don't even understand the social dynamic, the social fabric of that environment. He says, oh, only play in the Salafi masjid. So everybody's supposed to leave the 8 masajid of the general body of the Muslims and go to this little hole in the wall they call a masjid and pray because they're the Salafis. And I'm sure if the sheikh himself knew that that was the case, he probably wouldn't have made the statement that he made. And then we'll brush it off like, well, that's what the sheikh said. Yeah, but the sheikh should know better, opening his mouth. You're a sheikh. You're a scholar. Some of these scholars have PhDs. Some of these scholars have PhDs. And these are the type of fatwa. These are the type of verdicts that you are giving to people without doing any research, destroying communities, destroying families, destroying generations of children on falsified information that is being fed to you by the lowlives of our communities, people who we don't even take them serious. And they run overseas, they learn a little bit of Arabic, and Sheikh, what do you say about a brother who says this or that? And it's just like, we don't even regard that person. That person's a nobody in our society. I mean, like, you gotta be kidding me. But to whom much is given, much is expected. If you hold yourself to this position, then we're going to hold you there. You don't get to make those type of mistakes, man. You don't get to make those type of mistakes because those mistakes are costly, man. But the Prophet ﷺ said, I swear by Allah, if my own daughter Fatima was to steal, I would cut her hand off. Leniency is extended to those who don't have because they don't have. Leniency is not extended to the people who, have arrived at a certain position, a certain status in society. Let me just give you this ayat really quickly. Surah number 4, ayat 25. Surah 4, 25. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the slave girl. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ طَوْلًا أَن يَنْكِحْ مُحْصَنَاتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ فَمِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. That whoever from amongst you does not have the ability, right? Whoever does not have the ability to marry a free believing woman, then he can marry someone from who his right hand possession, meaning his concubine. You can marry her, all right? If you deem her to be righteous. So if you don't have the wherewithal to marry a free woman, because a free woman is going to ask for a reasonable dowry. And if you don't have, a reasonable dowry, then you can opt to marry your slave, your servant, your right hand possession, right? Your concubine. if she's righteous. Then Allah says, and if you, فَإِنْ أُحْسِنَّ فَإِنْ أَتَيْنَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ فَعَلَيْهِنَّ نِصْفُ مَا عَلَى الْمُحْسَنَاتِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ. That if you marry the slave girl and then you find her engaging in immorality, you find, meaning zina, you find that she committed adultery, or you find she committed fornication, right? Then for her is half of the punishment that would be given to a free woman. You see the leniency and the compassion? What is the punishment for? What is the punishment for a woman who commits fornication, a free woman who commits fornication? What's the punishment Islamically for a woman who commits fornication? Free woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in Surah An-Nur, Surah number 25. Come on, quickly. We're running out of time. What is the Islamic had, capital punishment for a woman who commits fornication and she's a free woman, not a slave? No, I'm talking about for the 50 lashes for 80 lashes. No. 100 lashes. 100 lashes. You guys are getting it all wrong. Go to Surah An-Nur, no, adultery is death. I'm talking about fornication. Allah says, وَالزَّانِيَةُ وَالزَّانِي فَاجْلِدُوا كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا مِئَةَ جَلْدَةٍ. That the zania, the fornicating male and female, right, that is guilty of fornication, فَاجْلِدُوهُمَا, then lash them 100 times. But here in this ayat, Allah saying that if the slave girl is guilty of fornication, then she gets half of the punishment of the free woman, and that is 50 lashes. You understand? So my point is what? That people who lack in resources, who come from the lower tiers, who lack in, you understand? Leniency is shown to them. Leniency is not shown to people who have the wherewithal, who are from the upper tiers of society. Leniency is not extended to them. So what I'm saying is that leniency should have been extended to Yusuf rather than the wife. But that's not the game that, that's the double standard. You understand? No, in that ayat, Allah is talking about fornication, not adultery. Adultery is that the person is to be stoned to death. For fornication, it's 100 lashes. But for the slave woman, she is to be given 50 lashes, half, because leniency is shown on her because she's a slave. You understand? I'll give you one more ayat. Surah number 24, ayat 33. And Surah 24, ayat 33. Pay attention to this ayat. Mercy is extended to those who come from the lower tiers of society because they may have been driven by dire straits or circumstances, or maybe even forced to do something that was haram. As in the case of Yusuf, Yusuf's hand was forced. You understand? Yusuf was forced. He didn't want that situation. She imposed that situation on him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pay attention to this ayah. This is the last thing I'm going to give you. Surah 24, ayah 33. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُقْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ عَلَى الْبِغَاءِ إِنْ أَرَدْنَا تَحَسُّنًا لِتَبْتَغُوا عَرْضَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَمَن يُكْرِهُنَّ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مِن بَعْدِ إِكْرَاهِهِنَّ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Pay attention to this ayah. I'm going to leave you with this. Allah says, do not force your slave girls. Allah is talking to the slave owners during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Men who had female slaves. They used to pimp their slaves out to go sell their bodies. Prostitution is a very old hustle, right? Even during the time, it's even mentioned in the Quran. Allah says, do not force your slave girls. Al-bigha. Bigha is prostitution. Do not force your slave girls into prostitution. In aradina tahassuna, if they seek to be righteous. They want to be righteous. They don't want to sell their bodies. But you're forcing them to sell their bodies. Tabtaghu arada al-hayat ad-dunya, seeking, desiring, right? Desiring the life of this world, meaning money. And then Allah says at the end of the ayah, He says what? وَمَن يُكْرِهُنَّ, and whoever forces them into prostitution, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مِن بَعْدِ إِكْرَاهِهِنَّ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, that whoever forces their slave girls into prostitution, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after them being forced to do so, will be غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, forgiving and merciful. To who? To the slave girl who's being forced into prostitution. mercy and leniency is extended to those who are lacking in resources, lacking in power to defend themselves, not to those who are from the upper tiers of society. You understand? To whom much is given, much is expected. You call yourself Aziz, you the second most powerful man in Egypt, then your wife should have been held accountable for that, not Yusuf. You guys have been great. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Ponder on that ayah though. That's very, very interesting. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you guys for your patience. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama taslimin kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.